Hi, so for my Week 6 innovation project, my proposal is to create a DSU performance newsletter for athletes and coaches. So I'd like to start off by going over this graphic that we discussed earlier in this semester. What do you want leaders to do with technology? So what I propose to do is to create this newsletter, and the purpose would be, one, to create a better connection with the athletes. Right now we don't really have a system in place of distributing information. We kind of just gather around and we talk about it. We give advice on an individual needs basis. And I feel like in the newsletter format, it'll actually give the athlete something tangible to look at and to refer back to. I think that this will help bridge the gap of communication. Another reason I want to create this newsletter is to provide them with valuable information and practical application. So with so much information out there, I want to make sure that they have a credible source that they can again refer to whenever they need it. And the practical application piece would be, I just want to give them the tools they need in order to succeed both in their sport and in school. And then the last reason why I want to create this newsletter is in order to motivate them, to empower them to take action and to create positive change in their life. So now that we discussed the purpose of why I want to create this newsletter, let's talk about how I plan to create a better connection with the athletes, bridge the gap of communication, how I plan to provide valuable information and practical application, and also how I plan to motivate, empower, and create positive change in their lives. So what you're looking at is pretty much a general outline of what the newsletter would consist of. So inside this issue, we would have a mind candy piece. What this would cover is mostly the psychological aspect of performance, kind of giving them advice on how to succeed, whether it be in sports or in school or in life, just giving them basic life skills, how to solve problems and how to get through their daily life struggles as student athletes. We'd also have a performance piece in here, and we'd also have a nutrition piece. The performance would just be basic principles of strength training and why we do what we do so that they have a better understanding. The nutrition piece would be their diet, and that would be also a performance aspect, and then recovery, how they can better take care of themselves outside of the weight room in order to enhance their physical performance. So just to help you get a better idea of what the newsletter would look like, here's a kind of a mock draft that I created. And again, you have the mind candy piece, which would be on the first page. You have the performance aspect, the nutrition, and then also the recovery. And this would be found on the second page. So in terms of bridging the gap of communication and really giving our athletes a credible source of information, I think it's important to understand that some people are visual learners, some people are auditory learners, some people prefer to read, some people prefer video, and so I kind of try to encompass all aspects in there. Here you see we have a quote of the day. This is something that we do in the weight room where every time we come in, the kids give a quote and then we talk about what it means to them, how they can apply it. For this issue's quote is, "Victory is reserved for those who pay the price, pay the cost of work now, or pay the price of losing later." Also, if you take a look at the rest and recovery piece, you can see that we not only tell the athletes what Epsom salt baths are, we talk about why they work, the benefits of doing them, and then more importantly, how exactly they can implement this in their daily lives. So again, the practical application piece. And in this issue, we also finish off with a final thought, which is just a challenge to the athletes. This week's edition of Final Thought is, "Information is dead without work." Basically, it's a challenge to our athletes to take action, which is something that a recurring theme in this newsletter. So again, for the performance piece, principle of reversibility, we tell them what is the principle, why it's important, and then we tell them how they can use this information in their daily lives. So for example, during seasonal breaks, we advise them to move, we send them home with programs, and we encourage them to do it. So that would be the empowerment piece, is not only giving them the information, but challenging them to actually use the information, take positive action to get positive results, pretty much. So why is it innovative? I borrowed a few questions from week 4 of our discussion. I think it's innovative because what I'm doing essentially is I'm taking the same bit of technology. I use Microsoft Word to create the newsletter, and I'm just using it for a different use. again, to empower the student athletes, to encourage them to take action, to provide them with information, and also to build a better relationship. One thing that George Couros also discusses in his book is how to embody an innovator's mindset, and one of those things about being a leader is having empathy. And the way empathy plays a role in distributing these newsletters is, I think that it's important to understand that as college students, they're taking in so much information already, and so I can't necessarily expect them to go do independent research, and so it's important to provide them with the information. Not only provide them with information, but give them something tangible that they can look at, that they can read, that they can watch, and then also empower them to take that action. One other thing that Couros talks about is strength-based leadership, and I think that, so given that these student athletes, they grew up in an age of technology where they really don't go without it. Technology is something that they're more accustomed to using, and so I would even categorize it as a strength, and so I think it's my job, again, with distributing their information, to give it to them in a means that they would understand, something that they're comfortable with, and so that they can better receive the information. Why is this better than what we had before? So again, what we had before, we don't really have a system in place for distributing this information. Kind of just talk and give them advice based on an individual needs basis. And will the technology add value? I definitely believe that the technology would add value. One, in giving them the information, and then two, in giving them a call to action to actually utilize the information. So that's my plan for week 6, the innovation project, and that's what I would propose to create, is a DSU performance newsletter for coaches and athletes in order to improve their performance both on the field, in their sport, and in the classroom.